This video marks the beginning of me trying to beat all 3 modern Persona games with only the Fiend Demons and the Fiend Arcana. And let's just say, yeah, things didn't exactly go too hot. Here comes Lust. Here comes Lust. Not too bad damage, as long as we can still act. Oh yeah, it's over. We're just freaking dead. Well, I think we're just dead here. 314. Like, yeah, Joker dodge, please? Please? Yeah, this fight is just impossible, dude. Well, before we get here, though, I've got to bring you guys up to speed. So sit tight. Everyone probably has a favorite Persona or demon if you've ever played a game made by Atlus. Take Mothman, for example. This friendly-looking demon currently seemed to be a crowd favorite. And I always knew he existed, but I never really knew he was that popular. I think I even saw a person with a Mothman plushie before. Like, I didn't even know they made those. But yeah, since Atlus games always include every type of mythology in Personas and demons, there are always tons of options to choose from when picking your favorite. Well, my favorite group of demons in particular was always the Fiends from Nocturne. I won't go too much in depth about them in case you're not familiar with them, but if you've ever played a single Persona game, you'll always see these cloaked skeleton-looking dudes maybe once or twice in your compendium. Well, yeah, those used to be part of the Fiends. They are supposed to represent the arrival of death and destruction, and were some of the hardest bosses in SMT Nocturne. A lot of you guys are realizing I said they used to belong to the Fiends, and the reason I said used to is because, well, you know how in Persona, there's different arcanas that classify each Persona's group, or their tribe? Well, SMT had the same thing, and in SMT, they were known as the Fiends. You're probably wondering why I'm even talking about my favorite arcana, or my favorite race. And that's because my friend KM gave me the idea of a challenge run where I only use my favorite race or arcana in a Persona game to beat it. And I realized that actually would be a pretty fire idea, and I thought of the Fiends. Now, even though Persona doesn't have the Fiend Arcana like SMT, it doesn't mean I still can't do the challenge, because all the Fiends are actually included in Persona 5. Now, the rules for this challenge are pretty simple. Only Fiend Personas are allowed to be used. This list includes the following: Matador, Daisojo, Hellbiker, White Rider, Red Rider, Black Rider, Pale Rider, Trumpeter, and Mother Harlot. Now, there are some additional rules I feel need to be mentioned, which is if you are not a Persona on this list that I just mentioned, you cannot be used in battle whatsoever, nor can you be used for itemization or sacrificial fusion. We want to limit Persona use as much as possible besides the Fiends in this run, so I will only allow the Fiends to get access to Gallows and itemization. The Persona that doesn't follow this rule besides this list that I showed is Arsene, as he is the first Persona we get, so until we get a Fiend, we'll be stuck with him. Now, no party members will be able to be used since only Joker can use Fiend Personas, so this will be a solo run, and if the game forces party members, we will just have to guard. Because of this, the run will also start on April 18th, as every other day before April 18th is mostly just tutorial stuff. Now, a few last things is that this will be done on hard, and this will be done on the true ending. Now, I think both Merciless and hard can be challenging depending on what you're doing, but since this is a solo setup, I think hard is going to be a lot more difficult, so I'm going with hard. And that's pretty much everything. Before we start the run, I'd like to shout out Jaffinator, who did this run of Nocturne, which inspired me to do it for Persona. So with all that out the way, let's see if my true favorite demon race or arcana is able to solo a Persona game.
Come! You're mine!
Let's break through and punch him right in the face!
White Rider! Hellbiker! Ravage him!
I choose my difficulty, which is hard, and we call ourselves the Demi-Fiend, as he was once the legendary protagonist that was able to not only beat all the Fiends, but he canonically can use them all as well. And before we start, there are a few mods I'm using. They don't really help this playthrough at all, they kind of just give me a few nice quality of life changes. I'm using the Demi-Fiend mod that changes his swimwear to a Demi-Fiendish look, because, you know, why not fit the vibe of the challenge? We also have a mod that gives better descriptions, And lastly, the always cut in mod, because every single time we get a weakness or a critical, I love seeing the animation flash across the screen. It's just so flashy to me. Besides that, we practically have nothing else, so let's get right into it. After we get through all the tutorial stuff, we get access to the cardboard box that gives the DLC items. Now, we can't use personas in this run anyway besides the fiends, but DLC personas would be permabanned anyway. However, I will allow the DLC items, as I feel they are good, but they aren't like completely game-altering stuff that take away the difficulty. There's only really 3 accessories we're going to be using in this pack for most of the game anyway. This includes Heat Up, which is great for random encounters, as if we get an ambush, we can always get SP and HP back per turn. The Warden's Baton for a boost in HP by 40%, which will be very helpful until we get naturally 99 HP from gym and training. And last but not least, the Arm PC, which increases SP by 20, and it also increases all your stats on your persona by 3. Now, by 3 points doesn't really sound like a lot, but it actually makes such a huge difference in game, I'm telling you. When the 18th finally hits, we prepare accordingly, as we have no time to waste, as the challenge has officially begun. We jump immediately into the palace and get stuff started. And off the bat, as you would expect, things are not going too well. Because we don't have that juicy, merciless multiplier, taking out enemies with solo Joker is very annoying to deal with, mainly because just giving enemies turns in this game can spell certain death. Take the bicorns. I don't know why, but whenever the bicorns go first, Joker is always the #1 target. I'm telling you guys, go into Persona 5 and just let the bicorns get the first turn. Don't kill them yet. They will always target Joker. I'm pretty sure this is just a guaranteed, because literally they don't go for anyone else besides me. Yeah, I'd say besides this, the main issue right now is just the fact that we only have curse, gun, and physical attacks. Which is the weakness of nobody. So our Shin straight up kinda just sucks. Even Pixie, which is the only enemy weak to curse here, doesn't die in one hit to Iha, so we are in for a very, very long road here. Even if we do get a hold up after we defeat all the enemies, because all out attacks involve party members, I am banning them, and this also includes showtimes when we get them in the future. But because of this rule, we can't even get good EXP amounts, because each time we down all foes, we kinda just have to beg for an item or make them join my stock. So yeah. Also, I forgot to mention, but we also do have one final tutorial here where Morgana teaches us baton passing. Thanks Morgana for trying to also ruin my challenge even further. Luckily, after this battle, he's truly under my control, so we don't have to deal with this again. The first battle we have to do that's a mini-boss is the Heavenly Punisher, who will just charge, compose, and then use a physical skill that ideally is supposed to just one-shot your party members. Because they're one-shot anyway, it doesn't really make a difference, and by the time he finally targets Joker, he's already pretty low. We guard his cleaves to make sure we don't get one-shot, and we actually can out-heal them with Takemi's items, so pretty soon we're able to take him out easily. After that fight, I decided to do the Will Seed Gatekeeper early, which wasn't a good idea. Normally, you're supposed to fight the Eligors and practically have nothing else to do in the palace before going to go do the Will Seed Gatekeeper. But I decided to do it early out of just, spicing up my playthrough, and it was a very stupid idea. Mainly because I kind of blew all of my elemental items earlier on holdups, so I literally had nothing left but 1 Molotov cocktail, 1 freeze spray, and 3 curse items I picked up in Kamoshida's palace. So we pretty much were running on fumes. And yeah, due to my laziness of not wanting to just die and reload a save that was further back, I ended up fighting this stupid creature over 100 times in order to find the perfect attempt. I won't explain too much, but basically, you need to almost stun this guy 3 times. I need to land 1 sleep, I need to land 1 burn, and I need to make sure that when I freeze him, I land a critical. So yeah, it took a very long time to get that RNG to line up. Oh yeah, I also needed a perfect dodge, FYI. I needed all of this to beat 1 Will Seed Gatekeeper, because my stupid ass burned all my elemental items earlier. Yeah, not the best decision. Eventually, I did get the perfect RNG where Joker got a dodge, and I was able to beat him on my maybe 120th attempt, but literally, I don't know why I did this. All I had to do was just reload my save and not fight this guy this early and do him later. But due to my impulsiveness and my negligence, I literally suffered more than I had to. But the pain doesn't stop there. When we finally make it to the tower where we have to fight the Eligors, the first one I try to get some sleep procs with Dream Needle, and I miss all 3 sleep procs after 3 Dream Needle hits. So yeah, Eligor just goes, "Nice try, kiddo," and kills me shortly after. This happens for a few times until I finally get the perfect RNG, where I start using sleep vials I collected in a chest nearby to get better chances of getting sleep sticks. The Dream Needle RNG was also working with me, so as my party members are dropping like flies, so is his HP, and by the time it's only me left, it only takes a single bullet to finish him off. In the second Eligor fight is pretty much rinse and repeat. Since we don't have stun guns to trigger his electricity weakness, we're gonna just be going for sleep procs. But we don't really get good RNG on our first few attempts. To make matters worse, because the security is really high, it's really hard to just rush over and get to that Eligor without other random encounters trying to intercept me. And when I finally do kill the Eligor, well, this happens, and I actually got it on recording. Come on, just die, Please. Please just freaking die. This should kill right here. He's alive! Please don't hit Joker. Please don't hit freaking Joker, dude. Let's go. Let's freaking go. Let's, yeah, shut up, Gorgon. I don't care. Come on. Let's go. No, my bad. No, come on. Just hurry up. Please. Let's go. He was dead anyway. It didn't matter. Let's go. Now, I need to get the hell out of here and get us to a save point. Like, now. I need to get to a save point now, dude. There should be a save room, like, literally around the corner. Nice. Level 11. That's tough. Alright, yeah. It should be literally right around the freaking corner. Please, just get me out of here. Yes, I know. Yes. Hurry up. Come on. Get me out of here, please. Please, just get me out of here. Okay. I could probably take this way down, I think. Oh, no, I fucking can't. I have to take this way. Okay. It's fine. It's fine. Can I hop down, please? Holy shit, can I hop down? Bro. Where do I go? It's down here, right? Can I hop down, please? Thank you. Holy fuck! After the whole Eligor Tower fiasco, all that's left is to send the calling card now that we've secured the route to the treasure. Now, I've got a level 8 Arsene and I'm currently level 11. I think that will do as long as we prepare accordingly. Plus, this is the first and last time we're going to be using this crappy persona, since we're going to have Matador after this. So honestly, I think we could leave Arsene alone for now, and I'm not going to grind. When we head back home, we make sure we get Takemi's heals, we get EY's guns and weapons, and we make sure we wash our stuff at the laundromat to get better protectors, and we're ready to take out this pig named Kamoshida. Now, the first part of this fight is the scariest. Kamoshida goes twice, and Volleyball Assault hits really hard. It can hit up to 3 times and just completely depletes your HP. Now, we do have 3 nice meat shields, but once they go down, I'm a little worried about Joker. Now, the first part of this fight is very simple though. All we have to do is hit Kamoshida a few times, break the trophy, then we get into the spike phase. All we have to do is guard the first volleyball spike, then we make sure we kill Shizui, so then he can't get the second one off. And by this time, it's just him versus Joker. But this is where the fight is the easiest, because all we have to do now is just basically 1v1 him, and he only uses Golden Knife, which doesn't do too much damage. So it's pretty much just us going back and forth hitting each other until one of us falls down. Now, luckily, Takemi's items, we bought a nice chunk full of them, so we don't have to worry about running out, and we can pretty much heal all the damage that Kamoshida deals to us. Joker also gets a few dodges thanks to the arm PC, so that's very helpful as well. And eventually, we're done with the first boss. Now that our first major boss has been defeated, we have free time, and if you think that we were going to be spending time doing stuff we would do in an average playthrough, well, you're unfortunately mistaken. Because it's a Fiend run, not only limiting nearly all our personas in the game, but a solo run at that, we have to do things directly different. I made a list of all the confidants we will need 100% that will take priority over in this run, and I also made some other things we will be doing as well. Let's check it out. So the number 1 priority in this run besides confidants is training in Temple, as it is generally so required to have Joker maxed out in HP and SP in a solo setup towards the end of the game. So every day we are mostly just going to be spending time training Joker. That's really about it. This takes importance over everything. Next would be making elemental items, as whatever the fiends can't really use in battle, the elemental items can pick up the slack for. Some other niche stuff we will also be doing is billiards, as we can get our tech rank up. But all these 3 things I just mentioned will take precedence over any confidant. But now let's start talking about the confidants. So for this run, we must prioritize the following. Takemi rank 5, as this will give us pretty good heals. Ryuji rank 7 for easy mementos grinding, as the insta-kill ability will allow us to get personas that we can use to make more fiends.
Whoa, badass!
Sojiro rank 4 and up, as we can get LeBlanc Curry, so we'll always have SP for Joker, and Kawaiakami at rank 3 for housekeeping, which will allow us to make that said coffee with Kawaiakami, and we can use that time to do something else. Maruki maxed, of course, as he unlocks the 3rd semester. The twins at rank 1, so we'll be able to get special fusion for Trumpeter and Hellbiker. Yusuke rank 1 for copying skill cards. Mishima rank 1 because he's needed to unlock Kawaiakami in the first place. And lastly, Haru for her gardening items, and of course when she's maxed, that gives us access to Mother Harlot, which we're definitely going to want. Now, the last confidant here that's going to be a huge if is Futaba, as Futaba's final guard is pretty nice because it pretty much gives us a second life if we take a fatal hit. However, with all this stuff that we got on this list, not to mention, as I said, Joker's HP and SP is going to be taking priority. If we got time for Futaba, sure, but if not, oh well. Also, another thing I know you guys are probably thinking is, what about the boosts of each Arcana for the Fiend? Wouldn't you want to get the most highest social rank bonus when you fuse them? Well, honestly, I say meh. Social rank bonuses are nice, don't get me wrong, but I feel like all the stuff I listed previously is way more important, so we will focus on that instead. If we do happen to get a social rank bonus when we fuse them, great, but if we don't, I'm not really complaining. Anyway, let's go back to the run. After Kamoshida confesses, we get to name the group, which of course I named something relative to the challenge, and we have to head to Mementos shortly after for our first mandatory request. Now, this Oberion can be annoying, because if he decides to target Joker first or whatever, he can just straight up tentacle him if he gets a dizzy off, so yeah, that's very annoying because it happens numerous times. Not to mention, even if he doesn't hit a dizzy, his damage is already high enough as it is. So yeah, we mostly work with Dream Needle RNG once again to hope we can get asleep. He is weak to electricity though, so stun guns also help out as well, and eventually after a while we are able to take him out. Besides this, the rest of the days have been pretty uneventful, so I'm just gonna jump right into Madarame's palace. I will say I'm very close to level 17, which is the level we can get Matador, and I really want him bad, because yeah, our Sen is not cutting it. Even though most of the time we can get by with fights using status elements, it's like barely, because Joker's DPS is just really not it right now. So I'm very eager to get this thing going in Madarame's. And now that we're in Madarame's, things are going a lot better than Kamoshida's, I'll say that. Now that we have EY's electricity gun, we can easily apply shock to most of the enemies and get tentacles. Also, most of the enemies here are actually either weak to gun, or they're just straight up weak to Iha sometimes. So yeah, sometimes we actually are able to get by from some of these enemies, but yeah, no, still, we can just take a death if we do get hit with an unlucky weakness hit, or they just happen to focus Joker too much. So we have to tread very lightly. We get our first treasure demon encounter here, and I actually was able to get a crit, so I'm able to take it after a knockdown. Now, unfortunately, you can't do holdups without party members, so once we take off our party members when the game allows us to, we're not going to be able to get any more treasure demons. So yeah, we're probably only going to have like 1 to 2 treasure demons this entire run, which is a shame, but it is what it is. It's not too bad of an issue. We are missing out on a few cool skills and a few extra boosts of XP though. Soon after, we have to wait for Anne to open up the door in the real world, so we have to take out Nue in the meantime. Now, Nue isn't too bad as long as we happen to have a curse nulling persona, which thankfully Arsene does, and as long as we have Molotov cocktails. And luckily, I crafted some the day before. So we throw up some to knock him down, and we follow up with Cleave. He also targets Ryuji, thankfully, who's a nice bodyguard for me, so eventually we take out Nue. Now, the Yusuke Awakening fight I always had slight problems with, mainly because all the enemies on the field are very annoying. The Kurappa Tengus can use Taunt and Tsukukaja, and if they end up taunting Joker and he takes a hit from Ibandatra, well, that's just raps. Oh yeah, speaking of Ibandatra, he also doesn't have a weakness and you can't use ailments on him. So we kinda just have to raw dog the damage there. which is never good. Now, I will say there are a few silver linings, which is we can use ice and shock to take out the little miniature enemies, and then all that's left is we'll focus on Ippon-datra after. And if we could make it that far though. Usually while Joker's taking out the additional enemies, which takes about like 3 to 2 turns, we have to worry about Ippon-datra and who he targets. And if he targets Joker at least about 2 times, we could just straight up die. I had numerous failed attempts and it always seemed like I was getting very close to killing him, but finally on the perfect attempt I landed a few crits, got a few dodges, and we were able to take him out. Now one thing I'm not happy about though is on the successful attempt, I think I ended up burning like 1 to 2 beads, which I'm not happy about. The DLC beads are like our only way of having full heals right now, and I'd rather use these on more pressing fights, not mini bosses like these, so I am a little disappointed about that. After preparing for the palace, we head in again, and finally we don't have any more party members on our team, as we can finally get rid of them. So it's a true solo run starting now, and it feels great to finally be alone, holy. Well, not really, because now the danger of us dying is even going higher, but it was so boring having to guard every round with our party members, so it feels just a little free, you know? But yeah, we are level 16 right now, so I mostly came in here to grind before I start doing, story progression inside of the palace. Before we take out the mini bosses, I want Matador as soon as possible. Screw Arsene. I'm sorry, you did us great justice for going this long, my friend. But yeah, we gotta get a better persona. So we start grinding encounters here until I eventually reach level 17. So because we have a treasure demon, we can use it to fuse our first fiend persona, Matador. Let's see what we're working with here. Of course he comes with Tsukukaja, which is his infamous skill that he uses in the Nocturne boss fight, which can be very annoying. And he also comes with Psy Magic and some physical skills, Double Shot and Swift Strike. Pretty good, as his resistances aren't too bad. Nulling Wind, being weak to electricity, that's fine, I'll take it. Not really too many enemies use electricity in Madarame's palace, so we should be good. And yeah, honestly, pretty solid build for the beginning. I really think Double Shot and Swift Strike is going to help us out way later in this palace and probably in the next palace. And because I fused him with a treasure demon, he also gets a lot of AoE magic. So, you know what? Matador's looking pretty good right now, and I think he's honestly going to be able to hold us for quite a bit. One last thing we do in the Velvet Room is we make sure we fuse a Jack Frost with Mabufu and show it to the twins so we can unlock their special fusion. So then later we can make sure we fuse Hellbiker and Trumpeter when the time comes. But now let's talk about the rest of the stuff we need to do in the palace. And encounters are finally as they should be. Each time we get our first turn, we use magic that they're weak to, and we take them on the second. So now we don't have to worry about dying during encounters. That's definitely refreshing. The first mini-boss here is the enemies we fought in the Ippon-datra fight, and they're weak to ice, so we can use that to get 1 mores, and the main one in the middle uses wind, which we null, thankfully, so we literally take no damage in this fight, and we clean it up very quickly. The second mini-boss, which is 3 Makamis, are weak to electricity, but I thought they were weak to wind on my first attempt, so that led to a death. But on my second attempt, I popped a Tsukukaja to get some dodges, and I realized that I can use Mabufus to get freezes and use tentacles. And eventually, I just kept using that same system, and we were able to take them out as well. The last boss here was the Will-Seek Gatekeeper Arahabaki, which is optional, but we're gonna do it for the Brush of Vanity, which is a pretty good accessory you can get after you do this fight. Now, the only issue in this fight is mainly that he can use Brainwash and follow up with Psy Magic, which is a technical. He's weak to wind, and we can also use freeze sprays to pierce his physical resistance, so we have the tools to beat him. It's just he does happen to stick a few Brainwashes that ends up taking us out. So yeah, eventually though, we do get a nice attempt where we're able to get a lot of knockdowns. We guard the Brainwash so it doesn't stick, and we are able to take out our Habaki a few attempts later. Now that we're done with the palace, we spend the next few days training, and honestly, do I really think that currently the level I am and the level Matador is at that we're going to be able to take out Madarame? Honestly, no. Madarame is consistently always a problem in Persona 5 challenge runs, mainly because he honestly is kind of a skill check, and he is kind of a difficult fight if you're not prepared for him. So yeah, I'm gonna go into that fight still trying to see how things go, but I did make a separate save just so I can always go back and grind if I need to. I just want to see how this fight would go on my first few attempts, and yeah, it's not going too hot. Madarame has 4 different paintings that all use debuffs on me, magic on me, and I also take the bite from the mouth. So I take a lot of damage until it's finally my turn. Now, there is some silver lining to this. By using Mopsio, we can actually do pretty good damage to all of the pieces besides the nose. So if we did take out all the pieces, it would only be the nose left, and then we could finish off the nose. That's my game plan. But the problem is surviving at least about 4 to 3 turns to do it. I calculated that I would practically need about 3 Mopsies to take out all of the pieces, which means I have to survive about 3 to 4ish turns if I get good rolls. The problem is they start using the Painter's Grace skill around turn 3, which is where it makes Joker weak to everything. And pretty much anything past that phase I can't survive, as Joker just takes way too much damage. I consistently try to switch between the Warden's Baton and between the RPC, which means I have to constantly keep going back, but I try to switch between the 2 accessories to see if I have any notable differences, as the Warden's Baton would give me more HP to take more hits, but then the RPC would give me more damage and possibly give me more dodges with +3 in all my stats. And yeah, sometimes I had really close attempts where I almost took out all the pieces, but most of the time when I get painted, it really makes things a lot harder. So what I realize is that I have to use my first turn to pop a Sukukaja because we're gonna have to rely on dodge RNG. Great. We already have enough problems in this fight alone, and now we're adding Sukukaja RNG to the mix. Just great. Not to mention the eyepiece can sometimes hit Joker's weakness, which is electricity. Now I was thinking about using the Brush of Vanity, but I realized that using the Brush of Vanity a whole accessory slot for the potential of a weakness when I could be having like a boost in 250 HP with the Warden's Baton is not worth. So we're not going to use the Brush of Vanity here. Now, in terms of the RPC, going back to what I mentioned earlier, I really can't tell a difference if we're getting more dodges with it or without it. So honestly, yeah, I think we're just going to stick with the Warden's Baton here. And eventually, after 150 attempts, yes, 150, we do manage to get that one good roll where we get about 4 to 3 dodges, and we actually are able to take out all the pieces, which means it's just me versus the nose. So it's good to know that we actually can get by and destroy all the pieces, and then we only have one left to deal with. But the pain didn't stop there. You see, the nose will always try to resummon the pieces by restoring them, which only restores them with half health, so I can finish them off. However, the nose still pains me, and I still have to consistently keep healing and keep my Sukukajas up, or the nose will just straight up kill me. Not to mention, I can't damage the nose. I only have elemental spells, which I believe the nose doesn't take damage from. And because I have AoE skills, even if I damage the nose, the other piece will get healed. So I literally don't have a potential way to take out the nose. I need good damage, and I don't have it. And that's when I realized, oh shit, Matador has double shot. But I didn't learn it yet. So it seems like we're gonna have to go back and grind, get double shot, repeat this same strategy, and have to get all those dodges again, and pretty much get the nose alone again, and finish it off again. Jeez, man. But it's fine, it's fine. This is all about what trial and error is. We reload our stave and we go back a few days as we can fight the Shikiojis in Madarame's palace as they give the most experience. It takes me about a couple of times to beat them, maybe about 10 to 15, and eventually we are able to get Matador leveled up. I use the skill Frey as we can get that on an accessory slot for Joker to make the Shikioji grinding a lot easier as that's what they're weak to. Eventually, after we get the double shot, we're gonna head right back into the battle and see how things go now. Now, to save time, I'm just gonna show the attempt where I finally did get the dodges I needed and I finally was able to get the nose alone so you guys could see what happened. But let me just say right now, it takes incredibly long for me to get those dodges to occur again. Last time, it took me almost about 150. Now, I was a little bit stronger and Matador did have, I guess, a little bit better stats. Maybe like 1 to 2, sure. But I didn't think it would take even longer. It feels like it took even longer this time. Basically, like, yeah, it just took forever. My recording practically was like at the point where I was almost using like 200 gigabytes just from pure Madarame attempt recordings. Let's not even talk about it. But eventually, yeah, we did get another Mopsy that was able to take out all the pieces, And now, once again, it's just me versus the nose. Even with the double shot, I still had to be careful, as the nose could resummon the eyepiece, and the eyepiece loves using magic attacks. And if I got hit with a lek, well, I could just get comboed into oblivion, and there could be my attempt right there. So I had to play very carefully. I had to divide my double shots between the two of them, and eventually I was able to take out the eyepiece and the nose, pushing me into phase 2. Which can be just as bad as phase 1 if you're not careful. Now phase 2 I thought was going to be pretty easy because of course I have all AoE magic, but I forgot that some of the clones actually repel some magic damage. So I ended up using a Mabufu and I took a little bit of damage for it. But I realized as long as some of the clones are on the field, I can pretty much use some AoEs without any consequence, like Wind. Wind I can always use since I know Wind myself. Now, if you take out enough clones, eventually Madarame will start summoning dud clones, and these are pretty much always asleep, meaning as long as you don't target them, they can't do anything. Now, ideally, if you keep taking out these dud clones, Madarame will keep cycling through the elements and keep summoning different clones of different elements. My plan was to keep destroying the clones until Madarame summons the wind clones. So then, they will do wind damage, I null it, and then pretty much I have no danger in the fight and I can finish off Madarame myself. This eventually does happen and he summons 3 wind clones and a sleeping electricity clone, which means I can't even get hit with my weakness because it's gonna be asleep. So all I have to do is just focus on Madarame and the fight should be over pretty soon. Now Madarame does have a precaution for this. If you don't target any of his clones for a few turns, he'll use the Artist Grace skill from phase 1. But because of the Warden's Baton, and because I can just guard to avoid taking a weakness hit, it doesn't really matter, and eventually we are able to take out Madarame. Thank goodness.
Brass! Brass!
Persona!
Oh my god, bro.
Now that we have free time and now that Kichioji's open, we can also do temple and billiards as well. I also wanted to mention that they have the clothing store here where you can sell your clothes for pretty good money and pretty good debuff items, so we're obviously going to do this a lot. Besides this, we also do a few outings with the twins as they give us skill cards, and Akechi sells his whole plan.
A brief... So you're going to go have cake now? I missed lunch today, so I'm quite hungry myself.
Huh? Cake? What are you talking about?
Oh, am I mistaken? I thought I heard something about delicious pancakes.
During the meantime, we go to Mementos to take care of any requests we're still missing before the next palace. Now, we're mostly here just to grind out shadows, which thankfully, because we have the insta-kill ability, it's really easy to do so. And now we can just fill up our compendium with personas, so whenever we need to make a fiend, we have tons of combinations to do it. Now, most of the time in here, because we have Matador, most requests are not really a problem because as long as they're weak to something, we can exploit it. And if they're not weak to something we can't use, well, we still have status elements. So for the most part, yeah, nothing really causes me too many remotely problems in here. Also, whenever we're done, we give all our flowers to Jose so we can get some pretty cool items from him, as Dizzy Vials and Sleep Vials are going to be extremely necessary later in the run. On our first day at Kanashiro's palace, we have to fight some Onis. Now, these guys are completely jokes because they're pretty much susceptible to any ailment in the book. Shock, freeze, burn, sleep, dizzy, so it's pretty easy to clear them. Now, the Makoto Awakening fight was a little bit challenging, mainly because they threw a Suki in the mix, and the Suki can use Mabufula that can end up freezing me, and if we get frozen, it's pretty much wraps. Now, the Onis in the back are still susceptible to any ailment I choose, and the Suki, we can use the Frey accessory to knock them down. So after doing some pretty decent damage, I got a little greedy and tried to go for a Swift Strike here. That didn't kill, and I didn't have much health left, so they finished me off pretty quickly. But this doesn't happen again, and after just making sure that I don't do any risky plays like that, we're able to take them out on like the 3rd attempt. Similar to Madarame's palace, because we have Matador, most encounters don't cause us any problems because it's simply just us hitting weaknesses. And we even do get a few treasure demons here that we can kill. Now, once again, we can't get a hold up because we don't have party members with us, but killing treasure demons still gives us pretty good gold and pretty good EXP. Our first mini-boss here is a group of Orobuses, but we kind of just 2-tap them with Mabufu and we just go on our way. After that, we have to take the keys from the security guards. The first security guard, Fuki, only uses wind, so we literally take no damage and wipe him shortly after. And after that, the Suki, which we already fought during Makoto's awakening, is weak to Frey. So we kinda just spam that and he also goes down as well. The next fight is the previous security guards we just beat plus a Kinky in the middle. Now, this fight really isn't that bad even though it looks scary at first glance, mainly because we have the tools to beat the security guards already because we just beat them. And the Kinky, while not having a weakness, is susceptible to almost every ailment in the book. We take out Fuki first with stun guns, then we go to Suki and use Frey, he's taken out, and all that's left is Kinky. We can use pretty much any status ailment we want, so I go with freeze sprays to pierce his resistance and hit him with physical attacks. And even though he does do some pretty solid damage to me, he goes down shortly after. As we move to the vault portion, there's only 2 fights left. The first one being a Kumbaya, and he's weak to light. While we don't have light, we can still use status elements and use physical attacks to get some pretty good damage in. And while he does hit us a few times with Bloodbath, we can use Detox X to clear that, and we don't take too much damage from this fight, and he is also taken out as well. After him was the final fight, which was Cerberus, the Will-Seed Gatekeeper. Now Cerberus is weak to ice, which we can easily down him with, and get some pretty solid physical damage when he's downed. Now, the only other issue with Cerberus I'd say is that he has Counter-Strike, so I had to be very careful because I was scared that a Counter-Strike could just, trigger and just kill me. It did trigger once, but luckily it triggered on a gun bullet, so it didn't do too much damage, and I finished him off shortly after. We get our first alarm after securing the route, and remember, we can't use itemization in Gallows unless it's a Fiend persona. So I settle on Matador's Protector to make sure we don't waste the alarm, which is pretty good. It's better than the one I have right now, so I'll take it. Now, I don't really know if the Fiends have good itemization items. We'll have to see later in the run, but I hope they do. Since we secured the route on the first day, just like the other palace trips, we once again have some time to prepare ourselves for the incoming boss fight. I luckily did make a separate save before coming in because I had a feeling in my guts that Kanashiro was going to give us some problems. And sure enough, I was correct. Sometimes I hate being right. Piggytron will always open up with Missile Party, which is fire, which we thankfully dodge, and we get hit with Ocular Vulcan, which is like a gun skill. It doesn't do too much damage, and after that, the real battle begins. Our magic damage is kind of bad as we're still using tier 1 magic skills, and since we don't have like a weakness multiplier or anything, yeah, the skills just aren't doing that much damage. To make matters worse, usually when you have party members and he starts spinning his pig, you can throw up an item to make him stop. But since we're running solo Joker, I guess the game just pretty much didn't know what to do. So he just constantly does this. Yeah, he always spins and runs us over. And keep in mind, that does a lot of damage. I tried to work with this at first and just try to heal through it while still putting up numbers, and we pretty much can't. Because every single turn we guard, he immediately starts spinning immediately after. Which means we would literally have only about 1 turn to heal, and then we just have to guard and then heal again. We're pretty much stuck in a heal cycle. And yeah, this doesn't look like it's gonna work out so far. Now, I wasn't ready to throw in the towel yet and just start grinding. I thought maybe we could just use a little bit more damage, so I looked in my skill card list and the only skill card I had was Kuha, which has a higher base power than the other tier 1 skills, so I thought to give it a try. And surely the damage was a little better and I was able to clear a little bit more of Piggytron's health bar, but it does not fix the problem of just us having to heal consistently, and the damage numbers he's putting out is just a lot. And we're still not getting enough damage. The Kuha's nice, but it's not enough. I tried many attempts, and yeah, even if we did happen to use Takemi's heals to heal through that damage, we would need a lot of Takemi heals to do so. I even tried a last-ditch effort to try fucking Sukukaja dodging, because funny enough, the Piggytron attack can actually miss. So I was like, fuck it, we gamble, and I actually tried to do some Sukukaja dodging. Yeah, I'm not doing this again. I'm sorry, I already did this with Madarame, and it burned half my life force. I'm not doing this again. Funny enough, we did actually happen to get a few dodges too, but yeah, nah, I don't think we should do it this way. And I do have a way we can get by this fight, but I'm not gonna like it. I'm really not. Currently, I'm sitting at about level 29, and the next fiend we would get is Hellbiker at level 37. Looking at his build, as we're going to take a peek early on who we're grinding for, he has some pretty good skills as he has tier 2 magic and fire boost. That is very nice. Not to mention his affinities, he repels fire, which means that missile party in the beginning we can get some extra chip damage on. So honestly, I might have to grind for Hellbiker, and that's really what I don't want to do, considering that's going to take some hours. But honestly, at this rate, I don't think we have a choice. There's no way we can get any other skills right now, as we can't use itemization from other personas, and the game hasn't given me any other skill cards right now. So we're literally stuck with only tier 1 magic. Matador's stats aren't the best right now. Yeah, honestly, it looks like we're gonna have to grind this through. Ah, shit. Burn, 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 burn. Burn, 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 burn. Do 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 do.
I'll reveal your true form.
Holy crap, we finally did it. Thank goodness. Then you guys won't believe the most craziest thing that happened after this. Now obviously, since I'm 37, I went to go fuse Hellbiker. And while I was in the fusion room, just, fusing random personas so I can get the combination I wanted for Hellbiker, I had a fusion alarm active. And during my fusion accident, I ended up getting freaking a Fiend persona. What's the chance? I got freaking Red Rider. And I got the tail end of it on recording because obviously while was I recording, I wasn't expecting anything crazy to happen. So yeah, I mean, it's pretty insane that we got this. Again, we can't really use him as he only has boost skills right now, but it's still crazy we got him in the first place, and maybe he can find some use down the line. But it's genuinely insane we got this. But anyway, after this, we finally fuse our next Fiend persona, Hellbiker. Now we have 2 personas to switch from. Let's freaking go. Not to mention, his build is looking pretty strong. Tier 2 magic, speed master, and fire boost. Like, that's what I'm talking about. Not to mention, I also was able to inherit to him Tetracon, so he can repel any physical damage that comes our way. I think Kanashiro's cooked. I think this is exactly what we freaking needed. And since we're boofed up on stats and health since we grinded, I think we're gonna have a lot of more comfortable time in the following days to come. Before the rematch, I made sure to buy as many Takemi heals as possible, so we're stocked up this time. So if we have to go a long time for healing, we have enough items to do so. And we open up the fight with a Tetracon as the missile party gets repelled, and so does the Ocular Vulcan, putting on some nice damage before we begin. And look at that damage difference. A Sai was only getting us 40, a Kuho was getting us about 54 to 52, and now we're getting 200 damage with an Agliao boosted with fire boost. Oh yes, this is going a lot better off the bat. And I can tell you right now, we pretty much have no problems in this fight. He keeps doing the roll, and all we have to do is just keep healing maybe like every 4 to 5 turns consistently, and then we just go back to doing a few Agliajos, and eventually we are able to take out Piggytron. Let's get it. Phase 2 of the Kanashiro fight can be a problem if you're not prepared, but luckily I had already mapped this out preemptively. I decided to wear the Protector Succubus's pajamas that nulls sleep, so Kanashiro can't really harm me in this fight, as he mostly spams Lullaby. As for the guards, sure, their damage can be a little scary, so I decided to take out the one on the left first, as he has Power Slash, which is a move that can crit you. But yeah, once I take out the one on the left and it's only Kanashiro and the big boy, I mostly just use status elements, so the big boy can be aside and we can actually target Kanashiro. Because the big guy, I think, actually has more health than Kanashiro. Not sure about that, but his health pool is pretty big. So yeah, we target Kanashiro first, and eventually he starts using Make It Rain, which is a percentage-based move, so it doesn't do as much as you would think it does. And eventually, once he's out of cast, the fight is pretty much over. Oh, geez. I mean, I hate that I had to grind this much. I usually don't like grinding in challenge runs, but I think this is the one time where I'll accept it, since it is a challenge run where we're solo. Now that we have some more free time until the next palace, we spend time doing Yusuke's second link, so now he can copy skill cards for us. we take some time to go to the church, because now whenever we go to the church, we can get some pretty good items like full heal beads. They're called the Wine of Graces, I believe. But yeah, pretty much they sell these every Sunday, so we're gonna try to remember to come here every time. And that is roughly about it. We also do another twin outing that gives us an apt pupil skill card and a counter skill card. And eventually we are heading into Futaba's palace. Our first mini-boss here is a Garuda that mostly uses wind attacks, so I could just switch to Matador to completely null and not take any damage. However, after a Dazzler and some few Agliajos, it doesn't really matter, as Garuda is shortly down after. Since our grinding, I expected us to just mince everything here, which we kinda did. All the encounters were just completely destroyed. But I did not think the mini-bosses would give me so many problems, mainly because it's just Mott. Yeah, Mott was actually such a kick in the liver. Now Mott is so freaking lucky via this one skill that he has. Literally, he's fodder. He has a weakness, he's almost susceptible to every ailment in the book. He literally would just be an average encounter I face, but only because of the rat status in a solo setup, he becomes like the hardest mini-boss ever. Because yeah, when you're in the rat status, you can't block the ailment, you can't cure it with anything. I don't even think insta-heal works with it. Like, it's just a different ailment because the game classifies it as a different type. So yeah, you pretty much just have to wait it out, and you take triple damage, I think, in the form. So yeah, you really just don't want to get ratted. And he uses this very, very often. As I kept fighting Mott and the deaths kept racking up, I kept adapting and adapting. I felt like the Omni droid from Incredibles. Each time I died, or each time I was destroyed, I just learned something. So pretty much I figured out that there are ways you can avoid Mott using Rat, and that's by using a status ailment on him on the turn he's supposed to use it, or there's no allies on the field with him. So if there's no Lamias next to him, he'll waste a turn that he could have ratted you summoning the Lamias. Also, if he's under 50%, the chance of him ratting you increases a lot. Like, it's almost like he starts panicking and he'll start doing rat plus Megiddo. And once you see that, yeah, there's pretty much no chance you can survive. So you really want to take him out once he starts getting under the 50 HP mark. After many failed attempts, I got really lucky one attempt when he went for a raw Megiddo. Usually he goes for rat then Megiddo, but I guess he can just use raw Megiddo too. Regardless, it gave me the perfect window to go for another status element and finish him off shortly after. And now that we've reached level 38, we can actually get our newest fiend, White Rider. So let's take a peek at what he's packing. Now, he's working with some pretty good stuff. We got gun boost, triple down, like okay, and he's got some solid curse magic. Now, I'm really looking at the triple down though, because for his itemization skill card, he also gives gun amp. So this means this is the first itemization skill card we can actually grab. So gun amp, gun boost, triple down? Like, yeah, I mean, this is looking like a pretty good build. This should carry us throughout the rest of the palace. So we're definitely gonna fuse him right now. And I have an alarm bonus too? Hell yeah. It's the perfect time for White Rider too, because now we have the second Mott mini boss battle. Now this one is actually way easier than the second one, because in the beginning he comes with two little friends on the sides, which we can just use to chain more 1-mores. And when we get an ailment on him, we use triple down, and yeah, that's some pretty big damage. And after that, it only takes a few more ailments to stick before we just completely take him out, and I don't even get ratted once. Serves you right. And then we have the last mini boss here, which is the Will Seed Gatekeeper, Aliat. But since Aliat's weak to fire, I think you guys know how this one goes too. Before we leave, we make sure we cash out on our fusion alarm, and I give gun amp to White Rider. So now his damage is definitely going to be the highest out of my group right now. So honestly, we're looking pretty good for the fights to come. Before we take care of Wakaba though, we go into Mementos to take care of any requests we're still missing, and we grind a few encounters so we can reach level 40, as now we can fuse another new fiend too, Daisojo. So let's take a look at what we're working with here. Now Daisojo, as you can tell, mostly has light attacks like Samsara, which is pretty good for like probably cleaning out encounters, but I think the main thing I'm looking at here is the Diaranahan. Having a full heal this early is pretty nice, as we don't really have any other ways to get full heals at the moment, besides the Wine of Graces, which we don't have too many of those. So honestly, it's pretty nice that we're gonna have a Diaranahan. When I fused him, he only has Diorama at the moment, but eventually when we get that Diaranahan, yeah, it's gonna make a lot of these fights a lot easier. The Shadow Wakaba fight can be pretty hard in a solo setup. I mean, she has a lot of tools that can just quickly overwhelm you, but each of my fiends perfectly counters everything in her kit. Not to mention the accessory I'm wearing right now is a counter accessory. It's some accessory that I picked up that some guy was selling on Shibuya Street. It's some guy that has like a suitcase. I didn't even know that guy existed, FYI. I just happened to spot him and I checked out the stuff he was selling. But yeah, pretty much with the counter, and not to mention the fact that Hellbiker has Tetracon, we practically just repel all the physical she throws at us. Daisojo is going to be my healer, as if I run low on Takemi items, a diorama can heal me up pretty good as well. And we have White Rider, as because he has triple down, she takes more damage from physical when she's flying in the air. So triple down just completely depletes her HP, and eventually, yeah, she's done pretty fast. Since we have to wait for Futaba to recover now, we have a lot of open days. It's pretty much summertime, so there's like nothing else to do. We mostly just train and do temple almost every day. I think I actually was able to get my HP to like almost 950 by this time too. So yeah, we pretty much just did this the entire time. We also went to Mementos as well if we didn't have anything else to do. Soon the party goes on their beach trip, and when we come back, it's already time for Akumura's palace. Our first battle is against Haru's fiance, but as you can see, thanks to all of our gym training as of recently, we are pretty much bulked up on trend. So there's practically nothing that's going to be able to hurt us for quite a bit. And even if we could get hurt in this fight, the brain shake doesn't really do too much, and they even threw in other party members on this fight as well. So while they're guarding and taking all the damage, we take out the fiance with gun skills. Next are the worker robot fights. Now this one fight in particular, the little small robots on the sides are weak to fire, and I believe the tall red one's weak to electricity. We don't have any electricity skills on us. I guess we do have stun gun items, but I'd rather save those for later fights. So we just work with triple down, and eventually that is enough to take out the robots. What's even better about this place is that the strong shadows here also get just instantly deleted by frickin' light attacks. So Daisojo here is absolutely meta. Now I'm not going to grind off these unless I absolutely have to, which I don't need to at the moment, but if we need to, it's always a resource that's there. Now the next robot fight is the same little mini robots that are weak to fire, and there's a new big one that's the blue one. Now the blue one, I'm not entirely sure what his weakness is, but I know the small ones are still weak to fire. But when I tried to kill them, I couldn't exactly two-shot them. I'm not really sure if it was because I wasn't buffed or not or whatever, but regardless of the reason, now they start using Rakamdra if I can't finish them off, and they only have a little bit of health left. But what I realized is every single time I spam AoE fire skills, the blue one still takes damage even though he resists it. So we pretty much just keep spamming Megarion the entire time, and eventually the blue one just gets weaker and weaker because the chip damage is actually adding up. Now this does take a lot of SP from me, and luckily mindfulness does help me out a bit by restoring a bit of my SP. But yeah, we pretty much just do this the entire time, and eventually the fight is over. The last RoboCorp fight is essentially the same thing. He summons more small ones, which I take out with Megarion. He takes chip damage, and because I'm able to just two-shot them, he doesn't get a chance to get any Rakamdras off. So yeah, we pretty much just do this for a while until the RoboCorp is dead. The last mandatory mini-boss here is a bunch of small workers in the second half of the palace. Now, they're all weak to Sai and Nuke, which are the one elements I don't really have besides items. So we mostly just use frickin' Daisojo. Yeah, I wasn't entirely sure what to do here, so I just went with light AoE damage. And yeah, that's about it. Because Daisojo resists physical too, we don't take too much damage. We heal up, and yeah, it's a very slow process. Because of how big our health is, they don't really pose a threat to us as long as we resist physical. Even if they crit us, all we have to do is just heal up back all the damage, and then we just damage them. Now, it's also pretty much pointless to buff up, because every single time we buff up, they instantly just debuff us right back to normal. So you can see how really long this fight takes, because sometimes we just get random misses and our damage is down. But it's the same principle over and over, so eventually we do take them all out. The last optional boss here is Mechezeldek, the Will Seat Gatekeeper, and he's pretty much a joke, mainly because, yeah, he's weak to almost every status element in the book. So we can use Dazzler even, and even Dazzler connects. So, like you guys would think, he gets completely destroyed by triple down. However, I also went for a gunshot shock that actually ended up reflecting and shocking me because he had frickin' Counter-Strike, which I did not know. And what happened next is, yeah.
Joker, you're looking cool.
No. Wait.
After eventually winning that battle, there's not much else in the dungeon to do, so we're pretty much done and all that's left is the boss fight. Now, currently looking at my builds, I think I was pretty ready for it. I think to the best of my capabilities, I could grind up a few extra levels to get my new Fiend, but I think we're good with what we got right now. Before I leave, I realized that there is actually a way that I could get some use out of Red Rider. Now I have a bunch of tier 1 magic skill cards I got from either the twins or the DLC set. Tier 1 magic starts to fall off by Kanashiros. So how could I get some use out of these? Well, Red Rider does have all the boosts, which means I can pick 4 skills and line them up with 4 boost passives he already has on the persona. That's my plan at least. Now basically what purpose would Red Rider serve? Well, since he only has single target tier 1 magic skills with a boost, but yeah, still weak tier 1 magic skills, this is more like a cleaner upper. Like, if I end up finishing off a round and like maybe only 2 are left alive, so I don't waste insane resources, I could just switch to Red Rider to like, clean up the mess. That's my plan at least. But yeah, pretty much besides this, there are a few things in the real world I'd like to do before we do the boss fight. So let's talk about those. It's funny how everything we need to succeed in this fight is in Kichijoji. Let me break it down. So the first thing we go to is the clothing store. Now I mentioned this earlier that whenever you sell your clothes, you can get good money and good debuff items. The debuff item we're looking for is Ultimate Spray, as this basically functions as a debilitate. Now they only give 3 of these. I wish they gave more. I believe they restock like every 2 weeks or so we definitely gotta come back and get more. The next thing is you can spot a suspicious man hiding in the alleyways that usually trades items for other random items you give him. And this week he sells 2 concentrate items for a thief mask. And luckily we picked this up in the Shibuya shop earlier, so hell yes, we're definitely going to make this trade, because those concentrate items will definitely help us in the later rounds where the robots are especially tankier. And lastly, we go to the Crystal Healings place to get all the amp accessories. Well, we don't get all of them, we only need Curse. These amp accessories are pretty good. They do have generally like all the elements in the game, but we mostly need Curse as the final round before the big robot is usually the hardest to get through. So just in case the RNPC is not what we need, we're gonna go with the Curse amp accessory instead, and that's pretty much everything ready. And once again, we are back to a fight I honestly cannot stand with any fiber in my body. But we gotta break this down, so let's break this down. On my first attempt, it's pretty clear that I wasn't entirely sure how to go about this. For the first row, we can usually just take them out with fire attacks as they're all weak to fire. On the second row, I believe they're all weak to either ice. I wasn't entirely sure, to be honest. I think this was the one that was weak to nuke and Psy, but I didn't really have that. So I honestly just kind of killed them with triple down, and I followed up with like random finishers, and it worked, to be honest. It did work, because the triple down just does so much damage. White Rider is still my highest DPS. When I went to round 3 though, that's when I started having problems, because I would try to knock them down with Zeo, as they were weak to Zeo, and I tried to switch to White Rider after, so I can finish them off with a triple down. But I kept running into slight issues, like maybe one of them would survive, or I needed to heal so I didn't have time to go for DPS, because yeah, even though I have 999 HP, they do damage. They do a lot of damage. And after Akumura hits us with Hunger, yeah, GG's. I pretty much just throw in the towel, as Hunger decreases your attack power by a lot. So he ends up summoning a 3rd round again, and I'm like, yeah, I'm good. We're just gonna give this another try and restart. On my second attempt, I realized I was going about this all wrong. Since round 1 doesn't pose any threat to us, I can technically knock them all down and use that turn to get a Tarukaja and try to burst as many rounds as possible before the Tarukaja runs out. That's the game plan I went with. Round 1 obviously gets minced as I have their weakness. Round 2, I open up with a triple down, they instantly all die. Round 3, once again, instead of knocking them down with Zeo and then giving Akumura potentially turns to, use Rakukaja or hit me with Hunger, I immediately just open up with triple down, boom, all down. Now we're on round 4. In round 4, I throw up a cleaning spray so I can lower their defense. Then I switch to Daishojo as they're all weak to light. And since my Tarukaja is still up and they're debuffed, it just minces all of them. But we do take a little bit of chip damage thanks to a freaking suicide order by Okumura, so now we're going into round 5 already battle damaged. But even despite how grim this round is looking, we try to fight back and put some damage on. I use my magic up Ofuda, the concentrate, and I try to get some heavy Maega damage with White Rider. We actually are looking pretty good, and the following triple down does not kill only one RoboCorp. We had one more. But now we have to deal with a whole new resummoned round, and since triple down takes percentages of your HP, it takes a fucking lot, so I don't have much health left to survive, and we throw in the towel for the attempt. Honestly, for a second attempt, not too bad. It seems like we at least have a game plan here. In all the other attempts, we pretty much just do the same thing and we make it to round 5 consistently, and once again, we put up our Ofuda, and we use our Maegas, and then we follow up with triple down. And once again, only the one robot that gets Rakukaja survives. For some reason, we just don't have enough damage to still pierce through that Rakukaja and do enough to finish it off. To make matters worse, when I try for a second attempt because I still have one more Ofuda, we get hungered. So that's pretty much GG's on that attempt as well. And after a while, I think instead of the RMPC, we're gonna have to switch for the Curse Amp accessory. Now unfortunately though, the Curse Amp is a trade-off. Because we have the Curse Amp, now round 5 will be a lot easier to take care of. But this makes the other rounds a little harder. Since we don't have that boost in +3 strength, not only is round 4 a problem, but also round 3 as we can't insta-kill them with triple down. Oh jeez. Now I was starting to think that Red Rider was useless in this little setup as all the fiends were contributing except him, but finally he found his purpose. We can use the Zeo to finish them off so I don't have to use a triple down, which would take way more resources on my health bar. Thank you Red Rider, I appreciate it. Another change without the RMPC is that we had to start using one of our Ofudas for round 4. I felt like our damage was always lacking now that we were missing the RMPC and that we just constantly had to keep redoing this round over. So to prepare, I threw up one of our concentrate items and I got busy with Daisojo. Now luckily we have 2 of them so we can save the last one for round 5 and then everything should perfectly work out. Luckily after some nice planning, I was able to take out round 4, getting me to my demon bracket round 5. The round started off pretty shaky as I had just taken an explosion that ate a chunk of my HP and I got hit with a crit and got knocked down. But I realized there's really no reason to rush this. As long as I throw up the magic Ofuda, whenever I start my attack can be whenever the round begins that I want. So if a round starts off kind of shaky, I can just wait for the next batch to come in and pretty much just wait for the perfect moment. So that's exactly what I did. I had a few rounds that I kind of didn't like and I didn't want to start the attack yet, so I held off as long as I could until finally I made my move and launched my concentrated Maega. They retaliated with 2 Megaton raids, which luckily I dodged 2 of them, and then Okumura used Hunger. I held my literal breath as this would have squandered my entire attempt, but luckily it didn't connect and I was actually able to finish them off with another Maega and a triple down. I was so pumped when I saw this, as I already felt the victory was within reach. And I was correct, as the super mega RoboCorp is a utter bitch. I'm just gonna straight up say it. He gets practically hit with every ailment in the book, so it's free technical damage all day. He does do his super concentrated Big Bang attack, which we easily guard, heal up, and the fight is pretty much over once we take him out. Because all we have to do is guard Haru's explosion, and we're finally done. I felt that I could do this fight. I knew it was going to cause me some problems, and holy hell, I've always hated it. Like, genuinely, I'm so glad we got this done. Before shit hits the fan of the story, we mostly go to the temple during the day as this helps with our SP. Our HP is already maxed, so all that's left is our SP. And during the nights, we mostly go to Shinjuku so we can get some extra bread in our pocket. Also because the kindness points might come in handy when we have time for Futaba. Well, if we have time for her, that is. We also get our first glimpse of Maruki's palace, but the encounter here is a joke because it's weak to light, so Daisojo makes quick work of it. And that's roughly about it for the time period of about a couple of weeks. We also ace our exams, Akechi threatens the party, and Joker gets a little jiggy with it, and eventually we are going to the best palace in the game, Sai's Palace, and let's talk about it. Now the first fight here, which was supposed to be an Osei, I'm guessing was supposed to be just style points for Akechi to look cooler. But since we can't do that because the challenge, sorry bro, you're not going to be aura farming on this fodder ass shadow. He's literally 2-tap, I used 2 skills and then he's already dead. so I don't understand what the purpose of this encounter was. Before we officially get started in the palace though, we take one more trip to Mementos to finish any requests we're still missing. And while we're here, we use our fusion alarm to fuse our next fiend, since we have now reached the proper level of 54. Let's look at what we're working with my goat, Pale Rider. And he arguably has my favorite build out of everything I've collected so far. He comes with Aegeon and Curse Boost, so that's some nice damage right there. Megidola, which is awesome because we finally need a way to pierce resistances if we don't have that set element. So now Megido can just be a cleanup crew. That's excellent. Deathbound, which is a pretty strong physical skill that has a nice crit rate too. Remember, we still have that apt pupil skill card, so maybe we could cast that in. And he has Evade Bless. So if we do happen to get hit with our weakness, maybe we can dodge it a few times. So honestly, this build is looking amazing. I also was able to get Lullaby on him too, and a few other good skills from the fusion I got. So yeah, he's honestly going to be my main persona for quite a bit. And thankfully, thanks to Pale Rider, even without Pale Rider, I don't think encounters would be a problem. But yeah, they no longer are really an issue, especially with Megidola just pretty much just wiping everything. And even the strong shadows here, which I think are just Ganeshas, get absolutely obliterated. So we're pretty much chilling for the most part. Our first mandatory battle here is against a Neberos. Now, I don't think Neberos can be hit with any ailments, so I kind of just had to raw dog the damage. Now, the damage they were doing to me wasn't really doing anything, and because I have a giant health pool, it really doesn't really matter how many times they hit me. It's kind of just a back and forth until they're dead, so that's entirely how the fight went there. The two following mini-bosses don't go much differently either. The Jaya 2 didn't even get to play the game because after I got a crit with triple down, I got another triple down right after that just pretty much finished it off. So that is crazy. And the Norn, while it can fully heal itself, is completely susceptible to every ailment in the book, so it doesn't take too long to finish that one either. After we get noticed by Sai in the real world, it's back to the palace and we have to take out the Will See Gatekeeper Ball. Or is it Bale? Baylor Ball. Regardless, he's weak to ailments, so yeah, just like the other fights, he gets taken out pretty quickly. And after the Darkness Room, we get another forced encounter, which I don't even really know what he was before he got absolutely deleted because he was also weak to or susceptible to ailments. So yeah, 2 for 2 I guess. And then all that's left is the arena fights. Now the first round, which is against 2 Ganeshas, can be a little scary, mainly because they have Miracle Punch, which can cause a few crits to happen. But as long as we use Psy items to knock them down, like the items I got from the computer site, and then with a concentrated Megido, they are instantly dead. So that's that round taken care of. Then we have the Rogdas, but they're weak to light, so yeah, 1 hit from Daisojo, and they're also pretty much dead in 1 hit as well. And lastly, we have Thor. Now, Thor does charge up and does a really meaty hit, but with Daisojo and guarding, we resist the hit, and the guard also reduces the attack damage a lot, so we don't take a lot of damage. And after hitting it with Dazzler and a followed up technical hit, it's pretty much over for the arena fights.
Soda! There!
I leveled up. Oh shit! That was freaking amazing, Joker!
And now that we're level 60, we can fuse 2 new fiends, Black Rider and Trumpeter. Now, I know this sounds kind of crazy that I get 2 new fiends already. Well, we don't get Mother Harlot all the way till 85, so we're going to be stuck with the following fiends we have for quite a bit. So I think it's about time we need these. Now, let's look at Black Rider's kit at the moment. And after taking a look, it's not bad, but I mean, it kind of just has everything we already have. We just got Aegon, we already have Megido, and Bloodbath, we kind of already have Deathbound from Pale Rider. So everything that Black Rider has, we kind of just got. So, I mean, not a bad build though. His resistances are a little bit shaky, mainly because of the fire weakness. We're starting to get, personas that kind of shouldn't have a weakness by now, and the ones that do are gonna kind of get left behind. So this does suck, but I will say the one positive is that during his fusion alarm, he does give Megido Lounge, so that is nice. We can technically farm those off of him, and we might use them a little bit. During my fusion, I do get some pretty good skills on him as well, like Zeodyne and other, tier 4-ish magic attacks, so that's nice. Maybe he'll find some use. And guys, please don't kill me, but here's where I made a small blunder. So, as I mentioned earlier, we only need the twins at rank 1 to fuse Hellbiker and Trumpeter as their group fusions. Well, That's not necessarily the case. Rank 1 does unlock special fusion, however, you need rank 8 to unlock more potential fusions in group fusion. We only have a limited amount right now. We don't actually have the ability to fuse Trumpeter until we get the twins to rank 8. So obviously you're just going to be like, oh yeah, well you can just do that, right? Well, at the time of recording this, no, I didn't think of that. Because in order for us to even get to rank 6, we have to fuse a Neko Shogun with Dakaja. And in order for us to get that Dakaja, we have to actually use that persona. We would have to level Anzu to level 28 and then learn Dakaja and then perform the advanced fusion, basically is what we'd have to do. And that involves using said persona in battle, because how else is it going to get the EXP? And then that's when it hit me as I'm recording this right now. I could have just fused a growth 2 skill card on every persona I needed for the twins, and then boom, I would have been able to fuse Trumpeter by them passively getting XP after I was, using the fiends in battle. They would still get the EXP in small amounts. It would take a long time, but I was committed to do that if I had thought about it back then. So unfortunately, since I didn't, we did not pull out Trumpeter in this run. So can I get a rest in peace Trumpeter in the comments? But besides that, we're still going to look at the build as let's see what we would have been working with here. Overall, Trumpeter is pretty okay. I think his skills are a little average, to be honest, a little lackluster. He does have, I guess, Gun Amp and Debilitate. Those are pretty nice. I think those are pretty good skills. His resistances is mainly what I'm looking at, as he repels not only Ice and Electric, but also Curse and Bless. That is very good. So, it's a shame we weren't able to use him, but hopefully we can still pull off this run in dedication to him. Since we have to wait for the last day to send the calling card, we spend time doing Haru's link as we have to max her out, and doing her link gives us access to gardening stuff, so we're obviously going to be doing that. We also max out Takemi because I just happened to have the time and I figured I might as well, and she also gives Makara-Con and Tetra-Con items that you can buy in her clinic, so these might come in handy later. Also, I romanced her because,
Room. Upstairs? Is your guardian home? Then it's just the two of us. Really? Then would you like a thorough examination? I guess I'll start off by examining your eyes. I'll just have to take my time examining you.
Anyway, going on to the sci fight, I knew things were gonna cause some problems off the bat because we're going solo Joker, so we literally can't catch Nijima cheating. I was a little worried because I was like, wait, how will we actually start the phase where we can start hurting her? And I realized that we have to wait almost 15 to maybe 16 turns, I think, of just pure letting her just cheat and abuse us until finally Futaba will just say some shit like, yo, we're literally fighting solo, could you not do this? And then they start arguing and then she just rage baits her into changing forms. Thank you, Futaba, much appreciated. But now we can actually start the real fight now. Now, Sai overall is a pretty simple fight. She'll roll the element wheel, and whatever element she lands on is obviously what she's about to use. She also takes more damage from the opposite said element. So if she's weak to... if she's using fire, she'll be weak to ice, basically, is how it works. It's like a fake weakness, basically. But yeah, we just switch our fiends accordingly to what she's using, and I use magic based on what does more damage. And even if we don't have that said magic attack, we can use the Magatamas from the Tanaka computer, as they do a set 150, and it doesn't matter what she lands on. The only time this fight really gets scary is when she lands on Almighty, as that when she starts getting access to very damaging moves. She'll immediately open up with this very high damaging gun skill, which I thankfully blocked with Tetra-Con because I remembered. However, I forgot that she also uses this really strong Almighty skill that luckily Joker dodged. But it didn't matter anyway because she ended up critting us with a severing slash, and that was pretty much it for this attempt. I think the worst part about dying each time in this fight is the fact that each time we have to do the roulette all over again. Now, I'm not the most impatient person, but come on, that's at least about 15 minutes of not basically doing anything until we actually can fight her. So I'm going to try to avoid death as much as possible. Pretty much when we eventually get to her Almighty phase, because all the other elements she rolls on aren't really an issue, another problem arises. You see, I've lost the turn of when she does Berserker Dance. She'll usually follow the pattern of like some gun skills, severing slash, and then she'll do the Berserker Dance. And I'm pretty much just spamming Tetracon every round because, yeah, those severing slashes are no joke. But when the Berserker Dance comes out, yeah, we get hit for over 1,000 damage. I didn't think I could tank it, but I didn't think it would do that much. On the next attempt, we make sure to guard the Berserker Dance so we don't insta-die to it, and the fight should pretty much be over. Except she does it again? Apparently she just straight up uses Berserker Dance like every 3 to 4 turns. I thought she only uses it once and I don't have to deal with it ever again, but that is not the case. Luckily Joker dodged it this time, and we don't give Nijima a second chance to do it, as we finish her off with a Megidolaun. Jeez, Berserker Dance is really scary. After we get through a bunch of cutscenes and the thieves pull off their Aizen Sosuke level plot trickery, we have Shido's palace to deal with. And since there's really not much else that happened during this time period, we're going to jump immediately into it. The first letter of recommendation fight is against a Yamato Orochi, but he can be shocked and hit with tentacles, so putting on damage is really easy, and eventually we take him out pretty soon after. Also, the strong shadows here, which are Kalis, can be easily defeated by just setting up Tetracons. So if we want to grind or need a source of grinding, we definitely have one. The next letter of recommendation fight was against a Forneus who was low-key cooking me. He mostly uses Brainwash and follows up with Psy Magic, and he also gets 2 actions, which means he can increase the ailment rate that the Brainwashes stick. Even worse. Now, one of the main problems for me was the fact that I didn't really have a lot of good ways to deal electricity damage. I only had stun guns, the Magatamas, and a Zeodyne, which wasn't boosted or anything, and his HP pool was a very big one. And after getting cooked straight 12 times in a row, I knew something had to change. Eventually, I went into my bag and pulled out a null brainwash. Thankfully, I collected these earlier, and I put that on, and it made the fight a lot easier, as literally none of his brainwashes touched me anymore, and I finished him off. The next letter of rec fight is a Hanuman and 2 friends in the back. Now, his 2 little friends can easily be hit with status ailments, so I take them out with triple downs soon after. And as for the Hanuman, well, he's weak to ice, but he does have evade ice. And he ends up dodging me about a couple of times. I think he ended up dodging my ice attack almost 3 times in a row. But then I realized there's actually a way you can avoid the evade ice passive by using items. By using freeze spray, somehow the freeze spray doesn't trigger his evade ice, so then I just beat him that way. Since all the mostly easier fights are now done in the palace and some of these last ones are hard, I decided to make a significant change. White Rider is currently the strongest build I have because he has boost and amp for his triple down. Now triple down still does take a percentage of my HP though, so I'd rather have a really strong magic attack with boost and amp. So I decided I'd refuse Pale Rider. I fused the Yamato Orochi with the ice boost from my Red Rider that I got from the fusion accident, so then I can fuse on the Yamato Orochi ice amp and ice boost. And then, after grinding for some more fusion alarms, I decided to refuse my Pale Rider, so now he gets Diamond Dust with ice boost and ice amp. This should definitely help me in the rest of the palace. And he also gets the Arcana boost since we maxed out Takemi, and that's a full rank 10. I mainly made this build for Akechi, as during the Akechi fight, using triple down I really don't want to do. Mainly because once again, triple down takes percentages of my HP, and Akechi is already going to be beating my ass and taking my HP enough. So I'd rather have a source of good reliable magic damage in case my HP is already low. And speaking of taking my HP, the Will See Gatekeeper fight was kicking my ass, even with this new build. Mainly because they just all use physical attacks. Even if I switch to Daisojo, which resists it, if they just get 1 crit, it's kind of over. And I can't spam Tetracon either because there's 3 of them. So this fight is rough. We get critted out of our boots multiple times. Now, they're still susceptible to ailments though, so we mostly stay on Daisojo to resist the damage, and I throw up Dizzy Vials and Sleep Vials until I'm able to actually take one of them out. And once one of them is taken out, it makes the fight a lot easier, as I can now start throwing up Tetracons. And the last 2 take themselves out. The next letter of recommendation fight is against an Oberon and 2 Titania minions. Every single time you take out the Titanias, he just summons more, so it's more recommended to try to take out Oberon first. Now, my main source of damage was just doing concentrated Mabufu dons, and because everyone here was mostly susceptible to ailments, it's not too hard to take everyone out, and eventually, after we take out Oberon, we just have to take out the last Titania, and the fight is pretty much done. The last letter of recommendation fight against Ongyoki didn't start off too well because he hit my weakness, but after a while, when he kept using curse attacks, I realized he doesn't actually null, block, or repel curse himself, which means I can just use whatever proper fiend repels curse every time, and that's pretty much just free damage. And after a few good rolls on Diamond Dusts, we eventually take him out, as he doesn't really have a lot of ways to actually hurt us. And finally we move on to the Akechi fight. Now before we actually have to fight Akechi, he's going to send 2 shadows at us that he charges with Desperation. Desperation raises your attack power by a lot, but it also decreases your defense. Now at first I didn't have Daisojo selected, and I really underestimated these 2 shadows, so I took a lot of damage from them and I actually ended up dying. On my second attempt though, I made sure I had Daisojo equipped, which made me resist the damage, and then with the help of Futaba's Tsukukaja, I was actually able to dodge a few attacks and take out the shadows. Now moving to Akechi's actual fight, it's pretty much the same as his rank up fight, where he only really has light attacks, curse attacks, physical, and that's roughly about it. He will use Megidolaun towards the end of his health bar, but for the most part he's absolutely a joke. He doesn't really have anything threatening, and because we can easily shut down light attacks and curse attacks down with most of the fiends, we're pretty much good. And our Diamond Dust damage is just shredding through his HP, and soon enough, we actually get to the scary part. The Black Mass phase. This is where he also gets 2 turns, and he pretty much spams physical every single chance he gets. Now Akechi will open up with first a Tetracon and then always use Brave Blade on his second action. Now I thought about using Tetracon myself, but I realized that was a waste of time because either our Tetracons will just clash and nobody takes damage, or when I do get reflected damage, it's only negative pile, which is the second physical skill he uses, which doesn't do a lot. If I can get a reflected Brave Blade, that would be great, but yeah, since Brave Blade's always second, it's never gonna get reflected. So I pretty much just gave up on the Tetracon strategy, and I'm gonna have to just straight up go for concentrated Diamond Dusts, which yeah, they do great damage, but the problem is, in order for me to use Diamond Dust, there's a chance that I'm gonna be left unprotected because I'm not gonna be using Daisojo. So if we get critted, yeah, we will just die. And to be honest, this is the type of shit I love in Persona. Just 2 Persona Masters going at it 1v1, pure fucking hands, no mercy. And Akechi started aura farming on me, dude. I literally didn't even know he had a crit animation on the opposing side. Yeah, he was going crazy.
It's fine.
Joker got knocked down!
I'm not letting you off!
Okay, time for a comeback!
Yeah, this is the type of shit I need to see in Persona 4 Revival. Anyway, after the Diamond Dust lands, it pushes him into the magic phase, which is kind of a joke. Instead of Tetracon, he'll just use Makaracon now, which it's like, okay, we can easily take that off before we do our Diamond Dust. And his magic attacks aren't scary compared to like Brave Blade, because you know, he's only using fire skills, which don't do too much, and then he's using curse skills, which we can repel. So yeah, that phase goes by pretty quickly, but then there's the last phase where he'll start staring at Joker because he's about to use Leviathan. Obviously we guard it and we don't make the same mistake with Saya Nijima, but I got a little greedy here and I decided to go for a concentrate when my health was low, and I forgot he uses Brave Blade again in the last phase, and he actually ended up killing me. But yeah, it only takes one more attempt for me to just basically replicate everything I did in the first, but this time play a little bit more safe, and the last skill he uses is a Megidolaun on his Black Mass phase, which yeah, again doesn't do too much damage, and we finish him off. Honestly though, extremely fun fight. I don't know why, but fighting other Persona users is always just super fun in this series. Before the Shido boss fight, I made sure to stop by Takemi's clinic so we can pick up as many Tetracon and Makaracon items as I can afford. Now this fight unfortunately does put party members back on my team, but I'm just gonna make them guard and they'll probably die very soon anyway, because the first phase he's mostly using very strong physical attacks, while also repelling physical himself. Luckily our main source of damage is diamond dust anyway, so it only takes a few concentrated diamond dusts to push him into phase 2. In phase 2, where the beast starts to fly, he'll start using magic attacks himself while resisting them. We can throw up Makarkon to get some cheap damage, and we can still throw up Diamond Dust for good damage as well, but we mostly use triple down here as he is neutral to physical attacks in this phase, so we can get some pretty good damage with that. And in the last phase, the pyramid one, he's now neutral to both magic and physical, so pretty much everything's on the table. Now, he does do this charged up skill that does hurt a lot if you don't guard it, so as long as we guard it though, we're pretty much okay. And we're able to get through the Will of the Masses phase pretty easily, now moving to the actual Shido fight. Now, Shido in this phase can be pretty scary as he mostly has almost everything in the game, heavy physicals, heavy magic attacks, and he constantly likes to buff himself with Heat Riser. We do have the Baptismal Waters though, which function as a Dakasha, so we can instantly get rid of those. And we kind of can just spam Tetracon and Makarkon because he kind of follows a very predictable pattern of using magic and then using fizz, and then sometimes he'll use Heat Riser and then either times he'll use physical. Basically, we just have to cover ourselves with a Tetracon and Makarkon every time. Eventually, after enough damage, we'll get to the phase where he stops holding back, and that's where things especially get scary. Now, he mostly just uses the same things, Heat Riser, you know, for heavy physicals, heavy magic attacks. He will start using charge though now, which basically just lets me know he's about to use physical anyway, so I can just throw up Tetracons even easier. But the scariest thing I'd say about this phase is Tyrant's Purge, which does actually end up knocking me down and uses my homunculus. Luckily, I think I have like 7 or 8 homunculuses because I've been buying like nearly once every day from the Tanaka computer. So we're never going to get hit with an insta-kill, so we're pretty much good. And eventually it gets to the 1v1 of the Joker phase, which we've been pretty much doing this entire time anyway. And this phase isn't much different, as he basically still uses magic attacks, still buffs himself with Heat Riser, which we can counter with Baptismal Waters, and eventually after a reflected Diamond Dust, we are able to close out Mr. Shido-san. We enjoy our last month of free time in the vanilla portion by making sure we max out Haru, and I spend time gardening. And that's roughly about it. My HP and SP is already maxed, so we mostly just spend time doing confidants that I feel would somewhat benefit me towards the last parts of the game, and we take out the last remaining Mementos requests, so when it's time for us to go into the depths of Mementos, we don't have to worry about other miscellaneous stuff that we haven't finished. Now I think we're a little over leveled for everything in the Mementos depths, as even the mini bosses get kind of destroyed in only 1 to 2 turns, so I'm not going to discuss them much. And after we get to the scripted fight of the Holy Grail, we're now on to the last dungeon of the vanilla portion, and now all that's left are the angel fights. Now the angel fights can actually be kind of rough though, so I will talk about those. The first angel fight is a Uriel who has access to like Almighty and other strong hitting elements, and he always summons 2 angels on the sides that usually help him with buffs. Now they also will help him with a Rakamdra if you get them low enough. However, it only happens if you get them low enough. So what I do is basically I hit them both with curse magic, and Uriel keeps taking the chip damage. And I don't do enough though where they trigger the Rakamdra. I do just enough where either the next hit will just kill them, and then Uriel will just summon in more. So I think you understand what's going on here. I'm using the angels to get chip damage on Uriel and to make sure they keep getting taken out so they can't put buffs on him. And eventually this actually does work out, and I don't accidentally do too much damage where they trigger the Rakamdra, and we're able to finish them off on the first attempt. This is when I realized before I take on the rest of the angel fights, I should prepare to fuse Mother Harlot. Now besides the Pale Rider refuse I did earlier, most of the fiends I did were just on the fly, and I used whatever personas I had ready in the comp. But because we were heading towards the hardest fights in the game, I realized I actually might need to prepare my fusion and look what skills I want on her preemptively before I just go in there and start fusing. Now the main skill I wanted on her was 100% a Heat Riser, as Yaldabaoth and the Holy Grail will just mince me if I'm not constantly buffed with evasion and defense. Now sadly, the only persona that could actually get Heat Riser around my level is Raphael, as the other personas are either just DLC or completely out my reach. Thankfully, we don't have to grind or do the growth strat because he learns Heat Riser at level 80, and we already have Anne at like rank 3 or 4, which means he should get enough EXP during the fusion. Our first goal though is to get to the level to fuse him in the first place, so we mostly grind off the Abaddons here for pretty good EXP. And yeah, I thought that this grind was going to be as long as the Kaneshiro grind we did for Hellbiker, but no, actually these Abaddons give great experience, so it doesn't take too long for me to reach the proper level. But anyway, after we fuse Raphael, all that's left is to grind to level 85s, so now we can look for a combo to fuse Raphael with some other persona, so we can get Mother Harlot. After becoming the sole reason why the Abaddons are probably going to be extinct in a few years, we eventually do reach level 85, which means we can fuse the final persona Fiend of this run. Let's see what Mother Harlot is working with here. Now, most of the skills we already are kind of going to get because the combination I chose is, guess what, a Pale Rider with the Raphael. So most of the ice skills that Pale Rider had is just going to be inherited to her anyway. But I am looking at the Ice Age, since the Ice Age is like Diamond Dust but AoE variant, and the Repel Bless is very good because her only weakness is Bless, so that covers that right there. Yeah, honestly a pretty good build. I think the Debilitate is nice, but I realized that we kind of have enough ultimate sprays, so Debilitate is kind of worthless. It's the first skill that's going to leave if we need to replace that for something else. But, I mean, everything else here is, pretty, I think it's kind of nice. The only thing I think that's weird is that she has a lot of ice damage, yet she doesn't resist or null ice in any sort of way. That's probably going to come back to bite me in the ass eventually. But overall, not gonna lie, I do like the fact that she doesn't have any weaknesses, and I do like the fact that she does have Ice Age. So you know what, we're working with it regardless. In the end, this is what I went with. Now obviously, if you remember the clip at the beginning, clearly this is not how she's gonna look when I need the final version to actually beat Yaldabaoth. She goes through a lot of changes until we actually get the proper one to defeat him. So yeah, but this is essentially what I went with as I thought it was a pretty good concept. I didn't think Yaldabaoth was going to require me to change so much, but you guys are going to see that soon enough. Anyway, let's cover the rest of the angel fights. And guess what angel fight is next? Yep, it's Raphael. Hey, what's up, buddy? Oh, but he's pretty mad at me, so we kind of have to kill him. Now, he only uses Heat Riser Charge and Sword Dance, so I think you already know how this is going to go. Yep, Tetracon, repel the damage, he's dead pretty soon. The next fight is Gabriel, who uses a mix of magic, like, I guess ice. I think I saw ice a few times. She also uses electricity, and she mostly uses light attacks for her Divine Judgment, which cuts your HP in half. Luckily, we repel Bless, and we also repel Zeodyne, so we're taking free damage on that part, and it's not really too hard to put up damage numbers ourselves, since most of the time she's just doing Divine Judgments that get blocked and repelled, so we're pretty much safe the entire time. The last fight is against Michael, who actually is a pretty hard fight. He's just like Uriel, but he actually has really good damage, and his skill ranges from even farther than Uriel's. So yeah, at first I tried to use the Tetracon strat since he does use a decent amount of physical. He uses Charge into Sword Dance, which we can repel for pretty big damage, but the problem is that he also uses a melee attack, which sometimes just takes off my Tetracon early. And he has really high damaging other skills like Divine Judgment, which, sometimes does hit me because I'm switching personas constantly. And he also has Megidolin, which does at least about 300 damage because he's always buffed up. So I don't really have time to be Tetraconing because I constantly need to be healing or doing something else. And eventually we do get a little careless and he takes us out, and we have our first death since quite a while. Instead of me having to burn a turn to use Tetracon, I decided to just use an accessory slot instead, as I can use Counter-Strike, and thankfully this is exactly what I needed. Now it doesn't always trigger, but it usually triggers maybe like once to I guess 3 times out of 9, which isn't horrible, but as long as we get those little bits of damage on Michael, we can keep focusing on the angels and making sure we keep our heals up and our buffs up. And eventually we are able to close them out just like Uriel, meaning all the angel fights are now done. And now with on the cusp of victory, we only have one final boss left. Well, technically 2 in 1, but the Holy Grail and Yaldabaoth. Now we clearly know that this was not going to be a first attempt, but let's just see how things go. Now the Holy Grail is pretty boring because all it does is just constantly do almighty attacks, and it has practically no deviation from that. It's just almighty all day. So our goal is pretty simple. Constantly put up heat risers, constantly put out damage, and that's roughly about it. Yeah, and just heal back the damage that it does. Now, we do have to be very careful though, because in a solo setup, if you do too much damage, I believe the Grail will just instantly heal. Sometimes it healed even though I didn't do a lot of damage, and I was kind of getting confused. But yeah, it's kind of just like I believe it's like every 3 turns you need to have just enough, but not too much and not too little, or it'll just cause it to heal. But yeah, eventually after a while, we are able to just straight up beat the Grail. Yeah, it's not that bad of a fight really. The light arrows do hit hard if they do connect, but since I constantly kept putting up heat risers, we dodge a lot of them actually. And now the first phase of this boss fight is done. Now let's move to the Hellish Part 2. Now Yaldabaoth, similar to the Holy Grail, will always open up with about a couple of almighty attacks called Arrow of Lights, which do a pretty decent amount of damage even when buffed up. So yeah, eventually after we do enough damage to Yaldabaoth, he'll summon his first arm, which is the Gun Arm, which inflicts you with lust and shoots capital punishment. A gun skill which we literally cannot block at all, so that's not good. And the lust already just completely destroys us. Yeah, already the first arm and we're having trouble. At this point, I genuinely was kerfuzzled. If only one arm is giving us this much trouble, how is 4 gonna do? I mean seriously, the lust kept trolling us and we couldn't get a heal off. And because we're taking capital punishment damage and we're taking the Arrow of Lights, yeah, there was no way we were gonna survive this. I tried this a couple of more times too, to no avail. So yeah, we're already gonna have to make a switch here. Now luckily we can easily just go back and grind for fusion alarms so I can start making changes. My first change is, look, no offense to Daisojo, but his only purpose here is to heal us. And he's only level 55 with like half the endurance that Mother Harlot is. So we sacrifice him to Mother Harlot so she can inherit the Diranahan, so at least she can do the healing and we don't have to worry about, taking more damage every single time we switch to Daisojo. Now it's looking like Mother Harlot might have to do everything in this fight, and I really fear that, but it's honestly shaping up to be that way. Now we're currently using the Concentrate accessory, but I decided to maybe go with Regan 3 instead, as maybe the passive healing will help me stay alive longer, and we can go a little bit more aggressive on Yaldabaoth and get that gun out of there. Now I'm gonna skip the Holy Grail attempts as they remotely go pretty much the same as the previous ones, so we're just gonna jump immediately into the Yaldabaoth fight each time. Now it takes about 20 attempts for me to even get things going because yeah, for the first like 19 attempts, it's just straight up the same crap as the previous ones. We get trolled by lust, the damage is too much, and we just straight up die. Eventually though, after we get the 20th attempt, things actually start going my way. When we don't get trolled by the lust a few times, and that Regan 3 is really kicking in, it's actually helping. And since we don't have to switch to Daisojo, the damage we're taking is still bad, don't get me wrong, but it feels like it's not as horrible as, when we switch to Daisojo. Eventually, after doing enough damage, he summons in the bell, which means we actually are making some pretty good progress. And shortly after, we are able to take out the gun. But the bell is a whole different story. The bell has the ability to make you weak to everything like that Artist Grace skill that Madarame used. Not to mention, the bell also likes to buff Yaldabaoth and itself with defense up. Not good. Yaldabaoth also starts using the Kaja, like, oh you gotta be kidding me, the heat risers are the only thing keeping me alive right now. And to make matters worse, since we took too long to take out the bell, the gun is now out at the same time, which means if we get hit with the Artist Grace skill, yeah, the gun is just gonna follow up with weakness hits, and we take another death. Honestly, good progress though, but I think we're still gonna make a few more switches. And then I realized we're not getting the max amount of possible ice damage we could be getting. When I fused Raphael with Bell Rider to get Mother Harlot, I never actually inherited the ice boost. How stupid of me. So I made sure to get a fusion alarm and sacrificial fusion so I could steal that ice boost from Pale Rider. My next idea was to start buffing Mother Harlot's endurance. We can do this by fusing a persona during a fusion alarm and using the second fusion as a sacrifice. It's always almost guaranteed to be an accidental fusion, which only increases the stats of the said persona. Now, because of the rule, I can't use any other personas for this sacrifice, so we use Fiend Matador. Sorry bro, but at least you're still contributing to the run. Each time we want to buff up endurance stats, we just fuse a Matador and use the second sacrificial fusion to make sure that it's always on Mother Harlot so she can get stat bonus points. And this is pretty much the only thing we can do as of right now. The last change I make is to also put high counter that I got from Memento's request earlier, because the only way we can maybe avoid that gun damage is by high counter. So, with all these new changes, let's see if we can make any more progress. And off the bat, things are looking a lot different. We actually are able to get a high counter triggered, which just straight up takes out the gun. The gun doesn't even know gun itself, which means that if we actually get some high counter triggers, we can just straight take out the gun. That's great. And our ice damage is really showing as that boost is really kicking in. So I can definitely tell that all of our changes are making definitely some progress. We even managed to take out the bell, in which he summons the gun again, which we just quickly take out that as well. So we're actually on a roll here in this attempt. Now the sword isn't that bad. It's pretty annoying because it doubles the SP cost of like everything used for a single turn, which isn't even that bad. It's just a little annoying. But I'd say the main problem is that even if we trigger a high counter on the sword, yeah, unlike the gun, the sword does not take damage reflected, so it doesn't hurt either of us. But, you know, the main objective is just to keep us alive, so I'll take it. But if the sword does happen to get a crit, it could be just over for us. Luckily, we are able to take out the sword as well, as it doesn't resist ice damage, and now we have to deal with the book, which inflicts us with Wrath. I believe Wrath makes us take more damage as it like lowers our defense. The main problem with the book though is that, yeah, the book does not take damage from ice. That's gonna be an issue, as once the book comes out, we have no way of dealing all damage to all parts. And I essentially just threw this attempt right here because it looks like we're gonna have to make another switch. Thankfully, I've been collecting Megidolaun skill cards this entire time from Black Rider, so now we can replace this with Diamond Dust, as we can use Ice Age for the rest of the parts, but then when the book comes out, we can switch to Megidolaun. Now, this is the last change we make to this build, as pretty much everything else I've kept all the way up into the successful attempt. The last change I make is that instead of using Reagan 3, I decide to switch back to President's Insight, because we're gonna need that extra oomph when we're using Megidolaun. And while the Reagan 3 did help my survivability, the concentrates are just so helpful, as they just instantly one-shot a full arm. We're gonna need that level of power when we start getting to the part where Yaldabaoth starts summoning the parts over and over. And we essentially have to be very, very patient in this fight. We pretty much concentrate, pop a Heat Riser, heal, and then we wait for the perfect chance to do a Megidolaun. If we can't get that chance, well, we basically just hold on to the concentrate and keep popping Heat Risers and heals until the RNG works with us, because some turns we take way more damage than others, and sometimes we get a few lucky dodges. And yeah, it's pretty much just a full RNG fest. Eventually, after we get the Megidolaun off, the book is very, very low, but unfortunately, it got Rakukaja the turn before it, so it wasn't able to kill, and we must have pushed Yaldabaoth to the next phase though, because the gun is now switching to Hunger. Ah, jeez. And one turn of Yaldabaoth attacking us, we got really unlucky. We didn't get a single high counter, a single dodge, nothing, and we just got high rolls of full hits of all pieces. And there goes another good attempt right there. You guys don't realize that every single time I show these good attempts on screen, it's like 1 of 50. We've already done this fight like maybe like 160 times by now. I'm just not really whining about it because I genuinely do not want to fucking crash out on this video. But this fight was so close to ending my run, I'm telling you. It's so much bullshit involved with this. The only thing I could do essentially is just go back and improve Mother Harlot's stats even more. That's roughly about it, which is another 3 hours or 2 hours of grinding fusion alarms. Yeah, I was just going insane. Just to be blunt, look at this comparison of what we started off with a few hours ago and look at what we ended with. Like, oh my goodness. But let's just eventually cover the successful attempt, because I know I don't want to make this video as long as a YouTube documentary. Eventually, after numerous attempts I lost account for, we actually make it pretty far where he starts using Jealousy, which only really works if you have party members around, so it's luckily an ailment we don't have to worry about. And after we do some more damage, the book is prepared to counter, which again isn't really doing shit, because as long as we don't attack it, we don't have to worry about the counter. And eventually we just keep putting on damage like this, and we keep getting even luckier and luckier, getting more dodges, and getting pretty good damage rolls. And eventually, Yaldabaoth will summon back all the pieces as he prepares his Rays of Control. We always have 2 turns for the Rays of Control, so we can use 1 turn to do what we like, and then the second turn has to be a guard so we can survive. And as long as we at least have about 400 HP or 300, I want to say, more towards the 400 threshold, we should be good. And then he'll just go back to, hitting us with all 4 arms again. He'll do that for about 2 more turns, and then he'll switch back to his Divine Apex charging. So as long as he follows this same system, I realize that as long as we survive those turns of him attacking us with all 4 arms, we can use that 1 spare turn he's using to charge to do whatever we want. Therefore, we can always get a concentrate off, and we can keep getting Megidolans off. And essentially, it's a very, very slow process, but we're slowly inching towards victory. Until eventually...
Persona! Ravage them!
As long as this doesn't kill me, I think we win here. As long as this doesn't kill me. As long as we live.
There is no escaping your
I think this is it. Please, this should do it. This should finish it right here. Let's fucking go, man. Let's fucking go! Let's go! Let's go, dude.
Did we do it?
With the vanilla portion of this run somehow actually completed, we enjoy our Christmas Eve with Takemi, and soon enough, everything becomes weird as we are now in Maruki's reality. Now, I had initially had a 3rd semester script, but I realized that most of it I can just kind of summarize, as now because of the overprep we needed for Yaldabaoth, we are really strong. Most of the mini-bosses now during this section of the game kinda all get destroyed because of just, how strong our attacks are. If we can't use status elements or hit weaknesses like we've been doing, we mostly just power through it with concentrated attacks. There are a few things I did with my build though, like some last minute changes, as I got rid of Megidolan and I put my Diamond Dust back from Pale Rider, as Megidolan was only needed in that Yaldabaoth setup, and there's really no need for it anymore. I also basically spent an additional 10 hours grinding in mementos for fusion alarms so I can max out not only Mother Harlot's stats, but Black Rider's as well, as these are going to be main fiends I'm going to be using during the Maruki Tentacle portion. Now Maruki I already kind of mapped out more extensively compared to Yalda, so this fight shouldn't cause me any problems on the same level he did. However, it could still give me many issues. That's why the stats are kind of just a safety net, if I may, because if something actually does happen wrong in the fight that I've maybe forgot about to map out, then the stats may cushion us and help us push through. After we send the calling guard, we move to the palace so we can prepare for the final showdown of the run. Now Maruki, as I said, I kind of have this fight mapped out, but there are a few things I misremembered. I chose Black Rider and Mother Harlot to max stats for, as Black Rider has a good array of magic, and Mother Harlot has a strong AoE. Unfortunately though, I forgot that in this fight, half the time the tentacles repel everything they aren't weak to. And remember how I said Mother Harlot not blocking ice herself might cause me consequences down the line? Well, these are those consequences, as it doesn't look like we're going to be able to take out the tentacles in 1 turn. However, my plan still works even without this. Azazoth takes nearly no damage as long as the tentacles are up. So my main idea for damage is the following. Phase 1, I believe you just need to take out a few tentacles to transition into Phase 2. In Phase 2, he starts using 2 skills a lot called Raining Seeds and Eternal Radiance. Now Raining Seeds is physical, as that can be repelled with Tetracon, and Eternal Radiance is Bless. And remember, Mother Harlot has Repel Bless on her innately, and the damage Azazoth was taking from these repels was actually a good amount, and that was pretty much all we needed to do for damage. Since Maruki could never kill me in 1 turn, it was easy to just out-heal anything he did. Even Tyrant's stance can be easily guarded, and we can survive. But then another issue started to rear its ugly head as Azazoth got lower and lower. I've always heard rumors that if you take too long during a Persona 5 Royal boss fight, that the Shadow Ruler has a mechanic where they can just straight up throw a fatal Megidolan like they're freaking Elizabeth in Persona 3 Reload. And yeah, This is very true, as apparently I somehow exceeded the allowed turns for this fight, and Marky just straight boomed our skin off. So yeah, that's a nice 26-minute recording for nothing, but if anything that just means I gotta be a little bit more aggressive. On my next attempt I realized something. As I mentioned, Azazoth takes nearly no damage by having all 3 tentacles up. By just taking out one though, just one, the amount of damage he takes is actually still pretty considerable enough to make a difference. So I pretty much just repeated the same thing I did in my first attempt, but instead of destroying all the tentacles, I usually just destroy one and use my other turn to do concentrated diamond dust on him for solid damage, while still constantly getting those repels. And thankfully, this is actually enough to push us into the final phase of Mariki and get out of this very long one. Now with just one final fight left to determine our victory in this run, it's me versus Marky and Adam. Just a pure Persona 1v1. Well, me and my cheerleaders since the party members are back. Ah, damn it, I didn't want you guys to be here. Because they're unwanted meat shields, but still meat shields nonetheless, I thought that would at least contribute something by taking hits, but they actually make things a lot worse. Because Marky uses AoE, we all take the damage, and to make matters worse, he has a skill that absorbs all your party's HP and uses it for himself. So literally all the damage I just did was healed back because of the party members I didn't even want here. Yeah, very cool. Anyway, once it's only Joker left, the real 1v1 begins, and we already are having problems. Because Marky does nothing but Grand Palm, which is almighty, and does nearly more than half of my HP with a Heat Riser on, yeah, this is not a good sign. It doesn't even look like he has a lot of health, but with the amount of healing and Heat Riser stacking I have to do, it doesn't look like I'll get a chance to attack. We do get a few dodges sometimes, but I am not pulling a Matador Madarame situation again, and soon we take our first death. We try a few more times too, but it doesn't seem like there's any deviation, as it's pretty... I don't know, it's looking pretty impossible to do this solo because of how much damage Marky is putting out with Grand Palm each turn, until I finally realized something. With a Heat Riser on, it almost does about half my HP, but I realized if I didn't have a Heat Riser on, could I maybe just take the full hit and actually live? And that's something that I wanted to see. So after we got through the whole phases where he bullies the whole party and does his revitalized soul, and we get to the 1v1 portion where he just spams Grand Palm, I wanted to see how much damage a full Grand Palm would do if I didn't have a defense on, and apparently roughly about 960 to 70. But it didn't kill me though. And you know exactly what that means? Every single time he hits me with Grand Palm, I can just heal up the damage with Diaranahan. And he'll do 2 Grand Palms in a row, but eventually he'll just stare at Joker, which gives me a small brief window to actually put on damage. And since he can never kill me, I think you guys are knowing where I'm going with this. We can slowly keep whittling Marky down with diamond dusts that, even though they aren't concentrated, still do good damage and add up, and just keep spamming Diaranahan the entire time. What makes this even funnier is that Ryuji actually managed to survive the revitalized soul part, and he's just like sitting there on like practically no health, but Marky literally never goes for him. It's funny, Ryuji is literally just watching his best friend get beat up the entire time, and he's like, yeah, I can't do anything, but you got this, Joker, trust. And he's just standing there watching as Marky just freaking hits him with the full force of God. But yeah, I mean, hey, this strategy is actually working, and we are actually able to defeat Marky this way. Which means that's one modern game completed out the Fiend Run series, and that's with Persona 5 Royal. Up next is Persona 3 Reload, then I got Golden. Alright though, this one was pretty fun, honestly. Like, I wanted to do something before I finished this video, which was grading each Fiend run I did on a tier list. S being, you know, this is the hardest challenge of all time. A tier, it's pretty difficult. B tier, it was easy in some parts, but it was very hard on some other parts. C tier, it was kind of a breeze. D tier, light work, no reaction. And I'm honestly gonna put this one on B tier. I feel like there were a lot of moments where it was very hard. Like Okumura gave me a lot of trouble, Madarame gave me a lot of trouble, Yaldabaoth literally almost killed the run for me, and I feel like each boss overall was just giving me a lot of pushback, and it was good, it kept the run engaging. I also feel like the Fiends, while I had access to, you know, still gallows and itemization for each other, I felt like it was very limited on what I could get, and I felt like the Fiends were still pretty good personas that held up. Fortunately, I think that this run is going to be just as fun on Reload as well, and for Golden. And if you made it this far, I can't say anything else but just thank you so much, because I spent a lot of time making this, and when you watch to the end, it really just shows that my work is not for nothing. So I hope you guys enjoyed. If you guys have any comments on the run, please let me know in the comments down below, because I read all of them. And yeah, I'll catch you guys on the flip side. Have a great one.